The crash and the cry. It was a cold, quiet night in the forest. The wind moved slowly through the tall trees and the stars shone above like tiny lights in the sky. Jake, a man in his late 30s, was sitting outside his small wooden cabin. He lived alone, far from the noise of the cities. He liked peace. He liked silence. But that night everything changed. Suddenly Jake heard a loud sound in the sky. It was not thunder. It was not a plane. It was something different. It sounded like metal tearing through the air. Then, he saw a flash of light. Something was falling from the sky. It crashed into the forest with a loud boom. Smoke began to rise from the trees in the distance. Jake stood up quickly. He grabbed his flashlight and his coat. That didn't sound normal, he said to himself. He walked into the woods, following the smoke and the smell of burning metal. The forest was dark and cold. The only light came from Jake's flashlight. After about 10 minutes of walking, he reached the crash site. What he saw made him freeze. In the middle of a small clearing, a strange pod lay broken. It looked like a small spaceship, half buried, in the ground. Sparks flew from the sides. A soft blue light came from inside. Then he heard a sound. A weak, soft cry. Jake stepped closer. He pointed his flashlight at the pod and saw something move. A small figure was crawling out. It was not human. The creature was about the size of a 10-year-old child. Its skin was pale purple. Its eyes were big and glowing. It looked scared and hurt. The child looked at Jake and spoke in a broken, shaking voice. "Please, human, help. My mom. She's trapped. They coming." Jake's mouth opened, but no words came out. He had never seen anything like this in his life. But the fear in the child's voice felt real. The child fell to the ground, breathing hard. Jake ran forward and caught him before he hit the dirt. Hey, it's okay, I won't hurt you," Jake said, his voice calm. The child looked up with wide eyes. Hunters, bad ones. They take her. Trap her." Jake didn't know what to do. This was not a dream, this was real. And this small alien child was asking for help. "What's your name?" Jake asked gently. "Rawl," the child said. Rawl." Jake nodded slowly. "Okay, Rawl, my name is Jake. You're safe now." Jake looked around. The crash had made a mess. Trees were broken, smoke was still rising, but there was no one else around. "Where is your mother?" Jake asked. Rawl pointed toward the deep forest. "She, trapped, far, not move. Please, help." Jake stood up and thought. He didn't know what he was getting into. But he couldn't leave a child alone in the woods, alien or not. "All right," Jake said. "First, let's get you warm. Then we'll find your mom." He lifted Rawl gently in his arms and walked back toward his cabin. As they moved through the forest, Rawl kept looking behind them. His small hands shook. "They coming?" Rawl whispered. "I feel them." Jake looked around. The forest was still and quiet, but he trusted the fear in Rawl's eyes. Back at the cabin, Jake placed Rawl on the couch and gave him a blanket. He made warm tea and offered it, but Rawl only stared at the door. "They follow. The pod," Rawl said. "They bad. Take people. Kill." Jake sat down beside him. "Who are they?" Rawl looked down. "Hunters, from other stars. They catch aliens, sell them." Jake felt a cold chill run down his back. "And they trapped your mother?" Rawl nodded. "She saved me, sent me in pod. She's still there. In trap. Please, we go." Jake looked into the child's glowing eyes. There was no lie in them, only pain, fear, and hope. He stood up and went to a closet. He pulled out an old backpack and a flashlight. He also took a small hunting knife. "Okay, Rawl," he said. "We're going to find your mother, but we need to be careful." Rawl stood slowly, his legs shaking. He took Jake's hand. "Thank you, human," he whispered. Jake gave a small smile. "Let's go save your mom." As they stepped into the dark woods once again, Jake couldn't help but feel that this was only the beginning. Something big was coming, something dangerous. But he had made a promise, and Jake always kept his promises. Who are you? Jake and the alien child Rawl moved deeper into the forest as the sky darkened. The trees stood tall like silent guards, and not even the wind made a sound now. Every step felt heavier. Every shadow seemed to move. Jake kept looking over his shoulder. He didn't know why, but something about Rawl's words stayed in his head. They're coming. After a long walk, they reached Jake's wooden cabin once. Again. It looked small, like it didn't belong in the middle of such a big, dark forest. But it was home. For Jake. For now, it would be home for Rawl, too. Inside, Jake lit a fire in the fireplace. Warm orange light filled the room. Rawl sat, quietly on the floor, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the flames like he didn't trust them. Jake sat across from him. He placed a warm cup of water on the table. You need to tell me everything, Jake said softly. From the start. Who are you? Who is your mother? And who are these hunters chasing you? Rawl blinked slowly, his big eyes glowing slightly, in the dark. My name is Rawl of the Theria race. We live far, very far. Another star system. My mother's name is Vela. She is a protector, a watcher of lost planets. Jake frowned. Protector of planets, like a space soldier? Rawl shook his head. No, she does not fight. She saves. She hides those who are hunted. That's why. The hunters came. Jake leaned forward. So your mom was helping someone else, and now the hunters are after her? Yes, Rawl whispered. She helped a family from the Askeri race. The hunters wanted them. My mother saved them, so they came for us instead. Jake sat back, thinking hard. You were running. They chased you. Shot down your ship. Rawl nodded. We didn't want to land here, but Earth was the closest safe place. They shot us above your world. My mom, she stayed behind to fight. She told me to run in the escape pod. I didn't want to, but she made me. Jake took a deep breath. The story sounded wild, unreal, but Rawl's eyes never blinked, his voice never shook. And the crash, he saw that with his own eyes. There was no lie here, only fear and truth. What do these hunters want? Jake asked. They sell people, Rawl said quietly. They call it bounty hunting. But they don't just take bad people. They take anyone rare, anyone special. My mom is special. Jake stood and walked to the window. He looked out into the dark trees. Something inside him was changing. He had always been alone ever since the war. He didn't think he could help anyone anymore, but this child was here. His mother was out there, and killers from another world were hunting them. Rawl, Jake said, turning around. Do you know where your mother is? The child reached into a small pouch on his side. He pulled out a tiny round device and placed it on the table. It glowed blue, then a small 3D map appeared above it. The forest was shown in moving light. A blinking red dot appeared deep in the trees. There, Rawl said. She is there. I feel her still. Jake stared at the map. That part of the forest was wild and untouched. He had never gone that far. Suddenly, the blue light flickered. A second red dot appeared. Then a third. Jake narrowed his eyes. What is that? Rawl looked up. They found the crash. They're tracking me. That's why we must go. Before they come here. Jake rushed to the door and opened it slightly. The forest outside was quiet. Too quiet. He looked through binoculars toward the sky and froze. 3 small flying objects moved above the trees. Not birds, not planes, drones. Fast, silent, searching. They're already here, Jake whispered. He closed the door quickly and locked it. He turned to Rawl. We can't stay here, they'll find us, and I won't let them take you. Rawl stood up slowly. You believe me now? Jake looked at him and nodded. Yeah, kid, I believe you. Rawl smiled for the first time. Then, we save her. Together. Jake grabbed his old backpack. He filled it with supplies, rope, tools, his flashlight, some food. Then, from under his bed, he pulled out a long black case. Inside it was his old rifle. Didn't think I'd ever use this again, Jake said, loading it. But tonight, I guess I do. Outside, the drones moved closer. One of them stopped. Its red eye blinked once, twice, then it turned and flew straight toward Jake's cabin. An alarm inside Rawl's device began to beep. "They see us," Rawl whispered. Jake looked at him with calm eyes. "Then let's give them a reason to run." He picked up the rifle, opened the back door of the cabin, and both of them disappeared into the woods. Behind them, the drone let out a sharp, mechanical scream. The hunt had begun. Into the woods the forest swallowed them whole. Tall trees stood like ancient towers, their thick branches blocking even the moonlight. Every step Jake took was silent but sharp. Rawl walked beside him, small and quiet, but alert, his glowing eyes scanning the dark for any movement. Behind them, Jake's cabin was already fading into the shadows. The drone that had spotted them would not stop until it found them, or called in something worse. Jake gripped his old rifle tighter. It felt heavy in his hands, not just because of its weight, but because of what it meant. He hadn't used it since the war. He had promised himself he wouldn't kill again, but that was before aliens crashed into his world, before a child cried for his mother, before the hunters came. Now, that promise was gone. "Are you okay?" Jake whispered. Rawl nodded. "Yes, just scared." Jake gave him a soft look. "That's normal, but fear is not always bad. Sometimes it keeps us alive." The forest was deep. The trees grew close together. Strange sounds echoed through the air, clicking, chirping, and something else. Something unnatural. Jake couldn't tell if it was an animal or a machine. Rawl suddenly raised his hand and stopped. His ears twitched. Jake dropped to one knee, scanning the trees. "What is it?" he whispered. Rawl pointed. "There in the fog, something's watching." Jake looked. At first he saw nothing. Then in the mist a shimmer, like heat rising from the ground. But this wasn't heat. It was a cloaked drone. Jake raised his rifle. The shimmer moved, fast. He fired. A sharp blast of sound echoed through the forest. The shimmer flickered, then a dark shape crashed into the ground with a loud clang. Jake ran over. It was a hunter drone, smaller than the one before, built for tracking. Its red eye was shattered, sparks shooting from its chest. "They're using stealth tech," Jake muttered. "They're hunting us like animals." Rawl bent over the wreck and pulled out a silver chip from its core. He placed it into his small wrist device. A screen lit up showing a map with red lines spreading like veins. "They're not just following us," Rawl said. "They're setting traps. One wrong turn and—" Jake stood up. "Then we don't give them that turn. They moved deeper into the woods, guided by Rawl's map. Each step took them further from safety, and closer to the red dot that marked Rawl's mother's last known location. Suddenly the air grew colder. The trees thinned out. A strange glow appeared ahead, blue light pulsing from the ground. Jake raised his hand and stopped. "What now?" Rawl moved forward slowly and scanned the ground with his device. "It's a net field," he said. "An energy trap. If we step inside, it wraps around us and calls the hunters." Jake crouched beside the glowing lines. "How do we get through?" Rawl pulled out a small crystal from his pouch. It sparkled in the dark. "This will freeze the trap's signal, but only for 10 seconds. Jake nodded. "That's enough." Rawl touched the crystal to the glowing line. The blue light blinked, then went dark. "Go," Rawl shouted. They ran, fast and quiet, through the invisible circle, just as the lights sparked back to life behind them. They made it through. Jake bent over, catching his breath. "You've done this before, haven't you?" Rawl nodded, but his face looked sad. "Too many times." As they walked again, Jake noticed something. The trees were quiet now, too quiet. "Rawl," he whispered. "Why do I feel like we're being herded?" Rawl's eyes widened. Because we are. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shook. A loud boom echoed through the forest. Then another. From behind the trees, massive shapes stepped out. Hunter walkers. They looked like tall armored machines with long spider-like legs and searchlights for eyes. Their heads turned slowly. One of them let out a low electronic growl. Jake grabbed Rawl's hand. Run! They dashed into the trees. The walkers followed, slow but loud, breaking everything in their path. As they ran, Rawl pulled out another device and threw it behind them. It exploded in a flash of light, releasing a thick purple smoke. The walkers stopped, confused. Jake and Rawl slipped through a narrow cave entrance hidden by vines. Inside it was dark and quiet. Only the sound of their breathing echoed off the stone. They were safe. For now. Rawl sat down, tired and shaking. Jake gave him some water. We're close now, Rawl said. I feel her, my mother. She's still alive. Jake looked out the cave opening. The walkers were scanning the forest slowly, still searching. We'll get to her, Jake said. But we have to be smarter, quieter, faster. Rawl looked at him. Why are you helping me, Jake? Jake paused. His eyes were hard but kind. Because no child should cry like you did, and no mother should be left behind. Outside, the forest roared again. The hunters were not done yet, but neither were Jake and Rawl. The cave was cold and silent. Jake sat near the entrance, watching the shadows of the forest through a narrow crack in the rock wall. Every few minutes, a glowing red eye passed by, one of the hunter drones, sweeping the trees with quiet hunger. Beside him, Rawl slept. The alien child had curled up on a pile of soft moss, his chest rising and falling slowly. Even in sleep, his small fingers stayed close to the device that tracked his mother's signal. Jake looked at the boy and then at the rifle in his hands. Everything had changed in just one night. Yesterday, he was a lonely man, surviving in silence. Now he was hiding from machines from another galaxy, protecting a child not even from his own world. And somehow, it felt right. Rawl stirred suddenly. His eyes snapped open, glowing softly in the dark. He sat up quickly. She's moving, he whispered. My mother. She's awake. Jake leaned in. Are you sure? Rawl nodded and tapped his device. The blinking red dot that marked her location had shifted slightly. She's alive, but still in the trap. Jake's jaw tightened. Then we move now. They left the cave at first light, moving like ghosts between the trees. The air was thick with fog. The forest seemed to hold its breath as they passed. Rawl's tracker led them to a part of the forest Jake had never seen. Old, twisted trees that looked like they had grown in pain. Vines hung from branches like ropes, and strange symbols were carved into tree trunks. This place feels wrong, Jake muttered. Rawl nodded. The hunters use it as a hunting zone. It's marked with fear. As they reached a clearing, the fog began to lift. And then Jake saw her. Vela. She was suspended in the center of the clearing, trapped inside a floating cage made of glowing wire and energy beams. Her body was covered in thin wounds, and her skin was pale with weakness, but her eyes were sharp, glowing bright as fire. Mom! Rawl shouted and ran forward. Jake grabbed him just in time. Wait, it's a trap. She's bait. Rawl froze, breathing hard. They knew we would come. Jake scanned the area with his scope. The trees around the cage were too quiet. Too perfect. Then he saw it. Tiny, blinking lights hidden in the branches, drones. Dozens of them. They're watching, Jake whispered, waiting for us to get close. Suddenly, a new sound filled the air. A low hum. It grew louder, vibrating through the ground. Then it appeared. A hunter-class dropship. It came from above the trees, sleek and black like an insect, wings folding as it landed on silent engines. The back opened, and something stepped out. It was not a drone, not a machine. It was a hunter, tall, armored. Its face was covered by a silver mask with no eyes, only 3 red lights that blinked slowly. Its arms were long, ending in sharp claws. It wore a long black coat that moved like smoke in the wind. Jake and Rawl dropped behind a fallen log and watched in silence. The hunter walked to the cage and stood in front of Vela. "You hid well," it said in a deep mechanical voice. "But the scent of a protector always reaches us in time." Vela said nothing. Her eyes locked on the hunter, filled with hate. The hunter turned its head slightly. "Your son is near. I can smell his fear." Rawl trembled. Jake put a hand on the boy's shoulder. "We're getting her out of there." "But how?" Rawl whispered. "That's a kill zone. One move and we're dust." Jake opened his pack and pulled out a small metal tube. "What's that?" Rawl asked. "Smoke bomb, military grade. Won't stop them, but it'll blind the drones for 15 seconds. That's all I need." Jake's plan was simple and insane. He would use the smoke to cover the clearing, shoot the power core of the cage, and grab Vela before the drones could lock on. Rawl looked at him with fear in his eyes. "You'll die." Jake loaded his rifle. "Not if I move fast." He looked at Rawl. "When I throw the smoke, count to 10, then run to her. Pull her out. I'll cover you." Rawl nodded slowly, his voice low. "Thank you, human." Jake gave him a small smile. "Call me Jake." He stood up, raised his hand, and threw the smoke bomb. It exploded in a cloud of white and silver, spreading fast. The drones blinked wildly, their vision scrambled. Jake ran. He reached the cage, aimed, and fired at the glowing core. The cage flickered, then collapsed with a sharp crack. "Vela, move!" Rawl dashed through the smoke and grabbed his mother's hand. She was weak, but she stood. The hunter roared from inside the fog. It raised a glowing blade. Jake fired again, hitting it in the chest. The hunter staggered, but didn't fall. "Run!" Jake shouted. They ran into the trees as the smoke began to clear. Behind them, drones screamed and fired blindly. But Jake and the alien family vanished into the forest. Back in the clearing, the hunter knelt down, touching the dirt where Jake had stood. It raised its head slowly. "Now I hunt the human." The hunters attack. The forest was burning behind them. Smoke curled through the trees, lit by red laser eyes and flickering drones. Jake ran hard, pushing through branches and thorns, his rifle swinging across his back. Vela leaned on Rawl as they hurried behind him. She was still weak but alive. The rescue had worked. Barely. But it wasn't over. Jake knew this kind of silence. It was the silence before the kill. He stopped near a thick fallen tree and held up a hand. "Hide. Now." Rawl pulled Vela behind a large rock, while Jake crouched low and scanned the trees. His breath was steady, his mind clear. Like it had been during missions years ago, back in the war, and just like then he felt it. They were being watched. A whisper passed through the air, not a voice. A code, mechanical, cold. Jake didn't move. He counted seconds in his head. 3, 2, 1. The ambush began. From the trees above, 3 drones dropped like knives. Sharp limbs unfolded, red lights flashing. Jake rolled and fired twice. The first drone shattered in the air. The second was hit in the wing and spiraled into a tree. The third flew straight at him. It slammed into Jake's chest and pinned him to the ground. Its claws stabbed down. But Jake grabbed a branch and shoved it into the drone's eye socket. Sparks exploded. The drone convulsed, then went still. Jake pushed it off, coughing, and shouted, "Move!" Rawl and Vela ran deeper into the woods. Jake followed, but something was wrong. He heard no more drone engines, no more rustling, just silence again. Too quiet. Then he saw it, ahead, between the trees. A shimmer. Another trap. "No!" Jake shouted. But it was too late. The ground beneath them exploded. Dirt flew in every direction. A glowing net shot out of the ground, wrapping around Jake, Rawl, and Vela in midair. They hit the ground hard. The net sparked, shocking their skin. Jake tried to pull his knife, but the net tightened. Then they heard it. Footsteps, heavy, slow. Hazard. The hunter emerged from the trees, stepping over the bodies of broken drones. It moved like a shadow, its mask still glowing with 3 red dots. But this time it was not alone. 2 more hunters appeared behind it. Shorter, faster looking, with curved blades on their backs. They surrounded the group. Jake spat blood and glared up. If you wanted to kill us, you would have done it already. The lead hunter stepped forward. We don't kill rare things, it said. We collect them. Its voice wasn't like before. This one was smoother, human-like, almost mocking. Rawl struggled. Leave us alone. The hunter looked down at him. You're the prize, child. A young Theria with bloodline powers. Worth a fortune. It turned to Vela. But your mother, she's old, tired, not worth as much. We may just take her heart for the black market, Jake growled. Touch her, and I swear. The hunter leaned in. You're not in charge here. Human, you're nothing. Jake smiled, teeth red with blood. I've killed things uglier than you for breakfast. In one sudden move, he triggered the small knife hidden in his sleeve and cut through the net's weak point. The shock stopped. The wires sparked once and went dead. Jake rolled, grabbed his rifle, and fired point blank at the nearest hunter's mask. The blast blew its head back. The mask cracked. The hunter screamed, and sparks exploded from its neck. The other 2 leapt, back as Vela rose, her hand glowing with alien energy. She unleashed a shockwave from her palm, sending the smaller hunter flying. Rawl raised his arm, and for the first time, his skin glowed with light. Strange symbols appeared down his arms, and his eyes turned bright white. Jake stared. What the hell? Rawl screamed, and the forest trembled. The final hunter lunged at him, but Jake grabbed a fallen metal spike and stabbed it through the hunter's chest, pinning it to a tree. Heavy breathing. Smoke. Silence again. The ground was littered, with sparks, broken metal, and blood. They had survived the ambush, but only just. Jake looked at Rawl, whose glowing slowly faded. He fell to his knees, exhausted. Vela caught him, holding him tightly. You awakened it too early, she whispered. Your bloodline power. It wasn't ready. Jake sat down, tired and bleeding. What the hell just happened? Vela looked at him. You saw what my enemies already knew. Rawl is more than just a child. He is a key. He holds energy that only the Theria royal line has. Energy that can unlock ancient alien technology. Or destroy it. Jake stared at the boy. And the hunters? They knew? She nodded. They don't just want to sell him. They want to use him. Jake tightened his grip on the rifle. Not while I'm breathing. But then Vela's face darkened. This was just a scout team. The real hunter, their leader. He's coming next. And he's not here to capture us. He's here to end us. Jake stood up, cracked his neck, and reloaded his rifle. Let him come. The secret. The forest was far behind them now. Jake, Rawl, and Vela moved through a narrow path cut into the earth, hidden under the roots of giant trees. The tunnel was old. Very old. Carved not by machines but by hands with purpose. Strange alien symbols glowed softly along the walls, lighting the way as they went deeper. The path had been shown to them by Vela. She said it was a place of safety, but the deeper they went, the colder the air became. The silence here wasn't like the forest silence. This was the silence of something ancient. Jake walked in front, his rifle tight in his grip. He didn't speak. He just watched the shadows. Behind him, Rawl leaned on his mother, still weak after using his hidden power. Vela, too, looked tired, but her eyes stayed sharp. Finally, the tunnel opened into a massive underground chamber. Jake stopped. His mouth slowly opened. The walls rose high, covered in alien writing, glowing gently. At the center of the room stood a massive structure, a stone monolith floating above the ground, spinning slowly in the air. Blue lines of energy ran across it like veins. At its base, a circular platform pulsed with light. What is this place? Jake whispered. Vela stepped forward, her voice soft. This is a vault of the ancients, hidden deep beneath your earth. Jake frowned. Under my earth? You mean you knew about this planet before? Vela turned to him. Jake, Earth is not just some random world. Long ago it was a bridge, a resting point for those fleeing the great wars between stars. Jake's eyes narrowed. You're saying Earth was involved in some alien war? Vela nodded. Not just involved. Earth was once protected by a group called the Watchers. My people. We placed vaults like this in hidden parts of your world. In case the war came here. Jake looked around again. The glowing monolith pulsed almost like it was alive. And this vault? He asked. She walked to the platform. This vault contains knowledge, energy, and something more. She looked at Rawl. Only someone of Rawl's bloodline can unlock it. Jake watched as Rawl slowly stepped onto the platform. The light reacted. The symbols on the monolith brightened. The stone stopped spinning. Then it opened. A column of light shot up into the ceiling and a deep hum filled the chamber. Inside the monolith was a sphere, floating quietly, small, smooth, glowing silver blue. What is that? Jake asked, stepping closer. Vela's face was serious. It's called a seed. Jake raised an eyebrow. A seed of what? A tree? No, she said. A world. Jake stared. What? This seed contains the code to recreate a star system. Planets, life, energy. It's a gift from the first creators. It can build or destroy. Jake took a step back. And the hunters want that? No, she said. They want Rawl. Only his DNA can connect to it. Only his bloodline can control the seed. Suddenly, the chamber shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Jake raised his rifle. We're not alone. Rawl grabbed the seed. The light faded. The vault sealed shut. The shaking grew stronger. Then a voice echoed through the chamber. Deep, powerful, and full of poison. You were always predictable, Vela. Jake turned sharply. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward. It was another hunter, but not like the others. He was taller. His armor darker, marked with red scars and ancient symbols. His mask had 6 red eyes, glowing like fire. And his presence was heavy, like death itself had entered the room. Vela whispered, Growlzar. Jake aimed. Who the hell is that? The leader of the Hunter Syndicate, she said. He's hunted kings, burned planets. He is the reason our people are dying. Growlzar smiled behind his mask. And now I've found the last seed. And the boy who holds it. He moved fast. Too fast. Jake fired, but Growlzar deflected the bullet with a flick of his arm. The blast hit the wall, exploding in light. Growlzar slammed into Jake, knocking him back across the chamber. Rawl tried to run, but Growlzar lifted him into the air with one hand. Vela screamed and threw a blast of energy at him. Growlzar turned and absorbed it into his armor. You think I haven't prepared for this? He growled. He looked at Rawl. I don't need your mother. I only need you. Jake coughed and stood, blood on his lip. He grabbed a piece of the broken monolith, a sharp shard glowing with power. Let the boy go, Jake said. Growlzar laughed. You think you can stop me, human? Jake smiled. I've stopped worse. And he threw the shard. It stabbed into Growlzar's side. Not deep, but enough. Growlzar roared and dropped Rawl. Vela pulled Rawl back. Jake ran to them. Together they rushed toward the exit tunnel. Behind them, Growlzar stood, bleeding silver. His mask shifted open just slightly, revealing dark, scorched skin underneath. I will find you, he said. And when I do, Earth will burn. The last stand. The sun was rising over the hills, but it brought no warmth. Jake, Rawl, and Vela stood at the edge of a wide canyon hidden deep in Earth's wilderness. Beneath them, Forgotten ruins from another age stretched out like bones of a dead civilization. And inside those ruins, they would make their final stand. Rahl still held the seed, the glowing sphere that could birth worlds or end them. It pulsed softly in his small hands, as if alive, aware of what was coming. Jake looked out over the canyon with tired eyes. His body was bruised, his ribs cracked, and his clothes were torn and burned, but his grip on the rifle was firm. The pain didn't matter now. "They'll come through the sky," Jake said. "We'll see them before they land." "They won't land," Vela replied. "They'll drop straight on us. They know this is the end." "Good," Jake muttered. "I'm tired of running." For a moment, none of them spoke. Then Rahl broke the silence. "Jake, why are you still helping us?" Jake turned and looked at him. He crouched down. "Because once," Jake said slowly, "I failed someone. I lost someone. A long time ago. She needed me, and I didn't get there in time." He paused. "You remind me of her. Brave. Too brave for your age. I won't fail again." Rahl stared at him, eyes wide and wet. "Thank you." Jake stood up. "No thanks yet. We're not done." Above them, the clouds began to change. The sky grew darker, not from weather, but from ships. Dozens of them, black hunter vessels, sleek and deadly, flying in formation. And behind them, a larger ship shaped like a claw, the command vessel, the one that carried Gralzar. "They're here," Vela said quietly. Jake nodded. "Then let's welcome them." The battle begins. The first wave came fast, hunter drones dropping like meteors, kicking up dust and light as they landed. Jake didn't wait. He fired. One shot, two, three, each one hitting clean. The drones fell, but more came. Rahl and Vela stood behind a barrier of stone and shield energy. Vela raised her arms and formed a glowing dome around them, blocking blasts. Rahl crouched behind her, holding the seed tightly. From above, more hunters descended, real ones now, wearing armor laced with spikes and fire. They moved like shadows and struck like lightning. Jake moved through the ruins, using every wall, every broken pillar as cover. His aim was perfect, his hands steady. He had become what the war had trained him to be, a weapon. But even he could not stop what came next. A sound ripped through the air, deep, ancient, like a dragon screaming in space. Gralzar landed. The ground cracked beneath him as he stepped forward. His 6 red eyes burned. His armor was repaired, stronger, etched with glowing scars. He walked through the smoke, unafraid. "Human," he said, his voice deep and cruel. "Your story ends now." Jake didn't answer. He just raised his rifle. Gralzar moved faster than before. The two clashed in the ruins, blade against bullet, speed against strategy. Jake dodged, rolled, fired, hit once, shoulder, again, leg. But Gralzar kept coming. With one swing of his blade, he knocked Jake off his feet. Jake hit the stone hard, coughing blood. His rifle skidded away. Gralzar stood over him. "You are brave, but you are not enough." Jake smiled through blood. "I'm not supposed to be." Suddenly, a blinding light behind them. Rahl. He stood on the highest stone, holding the seed in the air. The energy around him blazed like a star. His body glowed. His voice echoed like thunder. "I am the son of Vela. I am of Theria blood." "You will not take this world," the seed responded. A beam of pure energy shot upward into the sky. It cut through the hunter ships, destroying some, disabling others. The seed pulsed, sending a wave through the canyon, and every hunter froze. Even Gralzar, his body locked, his mask flickered. "What is this?" he growled. Jake stood limping toward Rahl. "It's over." Gralzar struggled, then ripped off his helmet. His face, burned, cracked, inhuman, twisted in rage. "I will return. You cannot hide forever. The stars belong to us." Jake aimed one final time. "No," he said. "They belong to those who protect them." He fired. The blast hit Gralzar straight in the heart. This time, the armor shattered. The hunter screamed, then vanished in a burst of light. The aftermath silence returned to the canyon. The seed dimmed. The ships in the sky pulled back, leaderless, broken, defeated. Jake fell to his knees. Rawl ran to him and helped him sit. "You did it," Jake said, smiling weakly. "You saved her, you saved us." "No," Rawl said. "We did." Vela approached, kneeling beside them. She looked at Jake. "You are no longer just human," she said. "You are one of us now. A protector." Jake nodded slowly. For the first time in years, he felt peace. 1 week later, the sky was clear again. Rawl and Vela stood near their repaired ship, ready to leave. Jake stood with them, dressed in cleaner clothes, the rifle on his back. "You could come with us," Rawl said. Jake looked at the stars. "I think I belong here," he said. "But if you ever need me..." Vela smiled. "We'll find you." Jake knelt and placed a hand on Rawl's shoulder. "You did good, kid. Don't forget who you are." Rawl hugged him, then the ship rose, and with one final flash of light they were gone, into the stars. Jake stood alone once more, but he wasn't the same man anymore. The war had ended, and a new legend had begun.